Turns out, because we went back and looked at pictures, my shoulder had been dislocated for months. I just didn't feel it.
Whoa.
You'll have to fight for it. Prepare for battle.
All right, welcome to Rate Your Pain. Today we have Stephanie Weber. She is another YouTuber who spreads RSD awareness, and she is a youthful one, so her story is going to be a little different, I feel. So you've had it since you were like 11, right? If I remember correct. 10. Okay. So yeah, go ahead, introduce yourself, and why don't you just start from the beginning?
Okay. So I'm 17 now. I was playing basketball when I was 10. I was a really active child, and I fell and I landed on my foot wrong. So we went to urgent care. They thought I had a sprained ankle. I didn't. I had torn a ligament.
Oh.
And it took 3 years for a doctor to take me seriously enough to do any further testing than an x-ray. So unfortunately, by the time I was 13, I had to get my whole foot and ankle reconstructed.
Wow.
So the CRPS started when I was 10 because it was constant pain that wasn't being fixed, and my mind just got in that cycle. And then obviously a really major surgery like that made it a lot worse. And a few months after the surgery is when the CRPS itself was debilitating. And unfortunately, that's when we found out I needed another major surgery on that same ankle. And so then it went full body from there, and it's been full body debilitating for about 3 years now.
Wow. So with that second surgery, you knew you had CRPS at that point, though, right?
Yeah.
So were they kind of nervous about it spreading more, or?
Oh yeah, for sure. We had really good doctors that did their best, but unfortunately, obviously, there's not really much you can do. So they put a lidocaine drip in the back of my knee, hoping that would do something. Obviously, it really didn't, but we didn't really have a choice with the surgery, because before I had this second surgery, I had gone through a recovery program for my CRPS that was helping. But without the surgery, I wouldn't be able to walk to keep moving and keep progressing. So it was either don't get the surgery and not walk, or get the surgery and maybe not walk.
Right, that's a tough decision.
Yeah, especially because I was only 15.
Right. Yeah, that's hard. I mean, your activities basically stopped after that first initial basketball accident, right?
Pretty much, yeah. I tried to power through it just because I was a really stubborn kid, and I did make it worse for sure because I was really adamant that I not stop sports. You know, I played field hockey too, so instead of being a midi, I was a goalie, so I was just padded and standing there so I could still play. But yeah, I definitely made it a lot worse on myself.
Yeah, it's hard as a kid to not want to go play and do stuff. I mean, I know me as a kid, I was a very hyperactive kid. So if I had this happen then, I mean, I can only imagine the damage I'd do, because I'd probably do something stupid and I would hurt it even way worse, you know, especially being a boy. But yeah, so I can only imagine, man, that's rough.
Yeah, I think I was definitely in denial for a long time.
Yeah. So, okay, at 15 is when you had the second surgery, right?
Hmm.
And what treatment were they doing for your RSD at that point?
I was at an institution in Baltimore called Kennedy Krieger. They are a really great place if you're injured. They're not a great place if you have a chronic illness. I didn't know that time. They were kind of the only place that even really knew what CRPS was, even a little bit. Even though we have great hospitals here, like we have Hopkins and University of Maryland and MedStar, but they were the only ones that could help a little bit. So I was on Lyrica, and I was doing physical and occupational therapy. I was in a rehab center 8 hours a day, every day, all day, driving an hour there and back, doing online school, and doing that. And it was helpful enough to where it was worth it, but it started to be really detrimental after that second surgery, when it just got so debilitating that it was the moving that was making it worse. And even though I knew it would only get worse if I moved less, it would get worse if I did more either way. So
right, like a very, very fine balance of what you could do. I mean,
right.
Gosh, that's rough. And so you're in Maryland, is that?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm not too familiar about what facilities you have there. I do know about John Hopkins and that, but
Yeah.
There's a lady on YouTube I've been following, and I want to say she might be in like Oklahoma, so she might be a little closer to you than me, but she runs this facility where it's like a team of doctors, and you have a doctor for like your body, your mentalness, yeah, your neurology. You have a doctor for every little thing, and all these doctors work together as a team, and they talk, sit around a table together, and they treat your whole body and mind, not just your ailment that your affected limb or whatever. And so I don't know. I mean, for me, I can't take the time to go out there and do that. But I mean, if it's something close enough to you, you should maybe look into it. I'll send you the info on it.
That's very similar. Yeah, I would appreciate the info. But that's very similar to what Kennedy Krieger did. Not only was I doing PT and OT, I also had cognitive behavioral therapy while I was there, which was probably the only reason why we stayed as long as we did, was because I had a really, really good therapist who had a really good grip on kids with pain.
Okay.
But it got to the point where it wasn't worth it anymore.
Right. So do you feel, I know we've kind of talked about this before, dealing with discrimination because of your age, people not believing you, because I'm 37. I've had it since I was 30. So I still get it at 37. People like, oh, you're too young. So I can just only imagine. And I've been waiting to talk to you to hear like your side of that.
Yeah.
So like, go ahead.
It's not great. Especially when I was undiagnosed, when I was still, like I said, I was very stubborn and still am, but when I was adamant about not doing online school. So I was only in school for freshman year for about a month. And before that, I was in like 7th and 8th grade in horrible pain, but I was there. Yeah. And that's what I wanted. But, some days are better than others. Some days I would come in without crutches, and then the next day I'd show up with crutches, and they were like, everyone thought I was faking it. Teachers thought I was faking it. It was really hard for the school. Actually had a couple instances where they didn't accept my doctor's note for me to not do PE.
Wow.
Because even though my doctor was like, no, she has a very debilitating thing, we just don't know what it is yet because it's really weird, so she can't do it. They would be like, well, she's fine, and not listen to my doctors kind of thing. That's
crazy. That's pretty much discrimination, I would say. And big lawsuit if they really pushed that.
Oh, for sure. And then again, more recently we had an incident that I laugh about now, but I feel like anyone that uses a wheelchair has any sort of invisible illness that like you can't obviously see why that person needs a mobility aid. It's a big insecurity of like, am I not disabled enough kind of thing? Or like, I don't know. That's how I feel a lot. But my sister and I were at Target and we had just taken the tag down. She just put my wheelchair in the back and we were about to pull out. And this guy comes up to our car and we were in a disabled spot. And he was just like, it's a really bad thing to do to take a spot from someone who really needs it. So I slammed my hand down against the window and I was just like, actually, I can't walk, asshole.
Wow. Good for you. I can't stand that. And I too get dirty looks from older people who think I don't need it. So I'm glad you said something to him. He needed that.
I'm not going to be one to judge other people's disabilities. There are a lot of people just like us, you can't see it, but I do personally know people. My grandmother used to do it before she realized how much other people need it, where she would like use her husband's tag when he wasn't in the car, or, just there are plenty of elderly people that apply for one and don't actually need it. And it's like, God forbid, I want to go to Target and all of the spots are taken. And then I see it's just someone else who is perfectly fine, or like, I don't want to assume that they're fine, but some people you're just like, you don't need it. It's not yours.
Yeah. I have a friend who actually, and this is a horrible story, so I hope she's not going to watch this, but she told me once, so she stole a placard from someone that she knew, I guess, and because she knew the person could get another one, and she's like, you're going to be pissed about this story, because she knew I used one. And she's like, I got a ticket for parking a parking space and I had a placard. And I'm like, good. I'm glad you got a ticket because you don't deserve it. So you need that ticket because you're using it illegally. And she was shocked by my response. I'm like, well, I am a person who needs it. So if you were parked there and I needed that spot, I'd be pissed,
Oh, yeah.
So it's crazy.
Yeah. And it's even like, online, like with my YouTube videos, it's no problem. I get a really great response and no one questions it because most of the people that watch it also have CRPS specifically. But if I'm talking to people that maybe I used to go to high school with or middle school with, and they're like, oh, how have you been for the past 3 years? And then I'm just like, oh, I've been in the hospital because I don't want to go into depth. It's not their business.
Right.
And they're just like, sure, because on my Instagram, I post pictures of me looking fine because it's Instagram. I'm not going to post pictures of me screaming and hysterically crying all the time.
Right. I mean, nobody wants to see all that depressing, all those depressing photos. I mean, we put them out there once, and if you want to look at it, fine, but I'm not going to keep pushing it in your face constantly. Like, oh, look how horrible I am, Like with my YouTube channel, I'm talking about a depressing topic, but I try to keep some positivity with it. I don't want people watching my content and getting depressed with it. I want them to be encouraged and finding, ways to cope, finding better, more positivity out of it than such a negative aspect. So.
Oh yeah, I totally get that. I have like a personal Instagram, and then I've been trying to like do like a CRPS Instagram that's just like more general updates as opposed to like I don't really talk about specific situations in my videos unless it's like something that really sticks out to me. So that's kind of like if you want to follow my more day-to-day things.
Yeah.
But I mean, I completely agree. There are so many people in the chronic illness community, and it's like if you need that to vent, I totally get it.
Yeah.
But it's kind of hard to go online and you want to be supportive of other people with it, and then it's just but I don't want to be seeing that constant depressing content of I hate my life with this, I hate my life with this. It's like I don't like that I have it either, but it definitely doesn't make me feel better to see other people in a similar position just really being that
Right.
affected by it.
Right. And I mean, and it's okay to come on and, vent and all that. I mean, for me, this is a huge form of therapy for me. And, I even put out a little video of me venting about an issue in my life that wasn't even RSD related. But, I mean, it's okay to do that, but I just don't want to focus around that. And, so, yeah, I agree. It's good to bring positivity to it.
Yeah, like I had like a whole little mental breakdown, I think it was a month and a half ago, about I was having issues with colleges, but
Yeah, I saw that.
It's good to talk about and be really open and honest because a lot of people don't realize just how much CRPS takes away from your life, not just from your physical self, but like the rest of your life. But
I thought that was a great video because, it enlightens people to what really is happening. It's good. So that, and that, I don't think that falls along the lines of like, woe is me, it's like, look at the truth of RSD. My life is totally derailed and everything that I was dreaming and hoping for is gone now. And that's a very common thing with all of us with RSD because we all had plans, we all had futures, and it's pretty much gone for most of us. So, I thought that was a good video. So don't,
thank you.
Yeah, don't think that was one of those type that's like, oh God,
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
really hard to judge with like, I guess something I did want to talk about in this, because in the case that younger people are watching, like my age, it's really hard to balance school with this. Specifically if you have to transfer to online. Because if you're going to apply to a college that isn't online, they will throw away your application if they get any whiff that you did homebound school.
wow.
That is something one of my teachers is very knowledgeable, has worked at a lot of high level colleges. Like personally, my goal right now, and the one thing I'm allowed to be cocky about is my academics. I'm going to most likely go to Yale.
Good for you.
Thanks. But he's had students that were like my level shoo-ins, 6 AP classes a semester, working hard, all A's, ready to go, amazing resume for these colleges. And then they mentioned in their essay that they were in homebound and their applications were dumped then.
Oh my gosh.
Because they think it's not the same work, even though I can guarantee that I have worked harder as an individual in my classes than anyone else at the school I'd be going to, while also having to deal with all of this. I don't say this kind of thing frequently, but like I deserve it more. So it's very frustrating to be like, it would be a great essay and personal statement to be like, look how much I accomplished through this. But as soon as they are like, oh, you weren't in school, nope, not the same. So
I bet you could tie that in to discrimination if they try to get you out because you're forced to do homebound. It's not
Oh,
like your choice and
mhm.
it's not a life choice. It's basically because of your disability. So they're basically discriminating against you having a disability if you really round it up, you know?
It is,
So,
yeah, completely. And you would think with like a lot of things going on with like affirmative action right now, it wouldn't be that way. They would want diverse students from different backgrounds with different stories. But as soon as
exactly.
they have someone that's like actually a little bit of a challenge, they are done.
Yeah. That's just crazy. That's not fair. I mean, if you can prove it academically that you're good enough for the school, what more matters? I
Yeah.
mean, I guess they really want to see you go into top-notch high schools and all that too. I don't know. I mean, maybe it has to do with money and funding too. I mean,
Yeah. It's
could
crazy trying to get into like a school higher than like a state university. It is insane.
yeah.
Like even though I like you said I can prove myself with like not even just classwork. Sure, I could fake classwork and cheat all I wanted because I do online school. I don't because I enjoy learning. But like I've done standardized testing too. So like where I physically can't cheat. I'm in a room with a test administrator. I can't cheat and I still get really good scores. So why doesn't that count?
Yeah, that's why it shocks me. I mean, what more do they want? You
Exactly.
have to be able to run a 5K. I mean,
Yeah. That's a big issue with colleges too is there are a lot of colleges around me, like George Washington. There's the in Gettysburg, and there's another two universities in the city of Baltimore. I think it's part of the Hopkins campus and part of the University of Maryland College Park campus are not fully accessible, and they will admit wheelchair students and not tell them that it's not fully accessible. So specifically George Washington calling you out. I went to George Washington to have a meeting with a counselor. My dad and I tried to do a tour, and one of the buildings was 2 miles away, and they expected me to wheel myself there without a shuttle.
no way. Are you
And,
kidding me?
and because it's Washington, D.C., they claim a lot of it has historical property, so they don't have to renovate it, they don't have to add elevators, and they don't have to add ramps.
Wow. And I mean, it's our, yeah, I get it's historical, but it's also our capital where everything starts and
Mm-hmm.
laws begin and where people that are disabled, the laws that protect them are started. I mean, so how can they create laws that force everyone else outside of them to be handicap accessible, but not? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
that's that's
And
bizarre.
schools also, there are a lot of schools that won't guarantee disability accommodations, even if you go in with what's called a 504, which is basically like your standard public school accommodations that they have to give you because it's public school.
Hmm.
Even if you go in with all the legal documentation, they can't guarantee accommodations, meaning like if I'm in excruciating pain every night screaming and crying like I usually am, I don't get to be guaranteed a single room so I don't have to deal with a roommate. Even though there are single rooms, they can just be given out to other people that request them.
Wow.
And then they'll be guarantees of like, well, you can have a single room, but it might be on the complete opposite side of where the elevator is, and you'll have to go all the way around the building. And they are ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't understand how universities especially aren't held up to having to be handicap accessible. And I there's um there's another YouTuber I follow. I don't know if you watch him, but what is it, Squirmy and Grubs. I don't know. It's a guy with what's muscular dystrophy or something like that, where he can't walk, he can't use his hands, and he's got a beautiful fiance who's totally normal, and she's his caretaker, and they have a great channel, and he really brings light to how bad. I mean, they travel the world too, but like just how bad places are not being accessible, and he has to use like a changing table to have her, help him out when they're out and about. And a lot of places don't have changing tables, so he has to lay on a bathroom floor. I
Yeah.
mean, it's horrible. So, I mean,
Yeah. It's, I
definitely
mean,
needs more awareness for that too.
I say it a lot because of where I live, there are a lot of historic places, like I said, Gettysburg, DC, Baltimore, whatever. If everywhere really enforced ADA laws, 70% of businesses would not be open.
Really? Wow.
Because even where I live in my town, and it's not a small town, it's a normal suburban area, you can't go on Main Street with a wheelchair. There are potholes everywhere. The ramps have bumps this thick to get onto them.
Okay.
It's not even, just where you would expect it to be roughed up in Manhattan. It's everywhere.
Wow. That's sad. Yeah. And where's all of our taxes and funding going?
Exactly. And you would think it's a law, and they made a big deal out of it when they passed it as a law, and then they never really followed through.
Right. That's why, like, you're bringing a lot to light to me. I didn't know half of this, so that's just mind-blowing. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh man. And so how often do you feel you need to use the wheelchair?
I use it majority of the time. I only really use crutches, and I have something called an iWalk now, which is like a prosthetic that just kind of puts your shin back so you can use like a peg leg instead of your ankle. And that's been helping, and I've been using that more, but it requires a lot of balance, which I don't really have from not being up a whole lot. But anytime that it's more than maybe walking for like a minute, I have to use the wheelchair.
Okay. The iWalk sounds interesting because, I've always joked saying I wish I had some type of like robotic brace I could put on my leg that helps me walk. Yeah. So sounds kind of closest thing to it, maybe.
Yeah. When I saw it, I was immediately, I don't know if you're a Marvel fan, but I was immediately like, oh, it's like Rhodey's braces after he got paralyzed.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's so cool. I'm going to definitely look into that because I could use one.
Oh, yeah. It works really well. And it would probably fit you better. There's only one side. It's made for adults. And obviously, I haven't used my legs in a long time. I have really tiny little sick legs. So it's kind of hard to tighten the straps tight enough. But yeah, for an adult, it would probably work much better.
Okay, cool. I'm going to look into that. Yeah, something you mentioned earlier, too, about like with, well, you were talking about Target, and it made me think of it and how we're talking about like being, not feeling disabled enough to go in wheelchairs. And I spoke to someone else about this before too. And, they have the rideable carts in Target, and me and my wife like to just go, trip out in Target sometime, buy random stuff, whatever. And I can't last that long, but like, yeah, Target's like our little date night sometimes, but I've always seen those carts and I want to use them, but I just feel like I'm going to get dirty looks. And I mean, I get it as it is. Everybody stares at me all the time. And, but I need something more support from me. I don't want to use crutches because I hate it's uncomfortable. But my shoulder is starting to have a lot of damage from using the cane because I probably put too much weight on the cane. I probably rely on it too much. So
I have a funny story about shoulder problems with crutches. So I went to a clinic in Arkansas last summer for the first time. I went there back in January, but the first time I was there, they were the first people that were like, you have a problem with your shoulders. And I was like, nah, I never noticed anything. Thanks about my leg. What's wrong in my shoulder? They took x-rays. My shoulders had been sitting like this for 4 months. Turns out, because we went back and looked at pictures, my shoulder had been dislocated for months. And I just didn't feel it. I just didn't feel it. It didn't compare to the pain in my leg, so I just didn't notice.
That is gnarly. That is insane because I've dislocated my shoulder before and it hurt. And I think that's why I have such bad problems because it's the same cane hand. Mm-hmm. Man, that is insane because, it doesn't compare to RSD pain, but it hurts. And I've dislocated a couple times since. So be careful. It's easy to dislocate it again once you do it.
Yeah, we've been having continued problems since just because when I do use crutches, because I like to use crutches when I can, it makes me, feel a little bit better about myself when I can use crutches. But
totally.
I've been using the wrist length crutches more, and we got like special grips that go on them that help a lot, that are a lot softer, not just the hard rubber.
I've been thinking about those too.
Yeah, they're definitely worth it, and they're not that expensive. But yeah, it's really hard to try to balance what I need to use, because even sometimes around the house, if I'm having a really bad flare, it's hard to get around because my house is 3 stories and my room's upstairs, but everything else is downstairs. And of course, because I'm a child, my parents work, I'm home alone a lot because I'm
Oh, that sucks. So you have no help.
exactly. So it's like,
Yeah.
you know, sometimes my dog is smart and can figure out how to open a fridge, but most of the time not.
That's awesome. Yeah. Probably just for himself too to find a snack.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I live in a two-story as well, and my bedroom and bathroom's upstairs. So, you know, I don't hang out unless I'm like doing this type of YouTube stuff upstairs in my room, but like I spend most time downstairs and outside and things like that. So, like just having to go upstairs to go to the bathroom, I'm like, oh God. Like, I'll ask my wife, can you go for me? I really don't feel like going up. But
Do you use crutches to get upstairs, or how do
no,
you?
just a cane and the rail. So
Yeah, I have to like walk on my knees. So I have a really bad problem in my knees now from the joints rubbing, because when I'm just upstairs, I don't want to use a pair of crutches just to get from my bed to my desk. So I'll just kind of hobble on my knees. And now we have the issue of I have like years worth of rug burn build up on my knees.
Oh no. Yeah, man, I would try that, but I can't
It's
because
rough.
my
I would
knee,
recommend it.
my left knee is just all messed up. That's where like all the metal hardware is, and I have bad osteoarthritis. But I wish I had an alternative way to get up because I wish that did work because it really is, it's hell. And using crutches, that was the one thing I hated with crutches is stairs, because stairs, like you really have to learn how to do it. Yeah, it is really dangerous. I've almost eaten it bad,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I
and
mean, around the house, because we have hardwood floors on the main level, I use a walker with wheels and just kind of sit in it like a wheelchair.
oh yeah,
Unfortunately, the problem with that is walkers aren't made to be sat in all the time. So the wheels will be wobbly, and we had an incident where the walker broke under me a couple weeks ago, and I actually fractured my elbow.
dude.
Slammed the wall. So that
Oh
was
my God, it's the last thing you need. Be careful.
yeah. So if you're gonna do that, get a really good quality walker. But before that, before we really realized what it was and invested in mobility devices, I just used like a skateboard and just sat on it around.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, alternative disability devices, right?
Yeah, really. You gotta get creative.
Right, you got it. So you said that you're into Marvel, and I've seen you're into a lot of the, like the Harry Potter and all that. So you keep yourself busy with a lot of stories and movies and
Big
stuff.
time. It's been a big influence on my life since I was a tiny little child. But I mean, it's a really good way to find friends for me, because I can't go to school. I haven't been to school in years. So for me, I found some of the best friends online, and obviously, do it the safe way, Skype with them, make sure it's really them. But I've even had friends come spend the holidays with me and my family and things like that.
Cool.
So it's a really good way to meet people that you don't have to interact with in person, because it's really hard to do that.
Right.
So like, and then obviously if you're meeting them through Marvel, you already have something really big that you have in common and you have to talk about.
Right. Hours of stuff to talk about, right?
And obviously it's like a good distraction too by itself. Like that's all I can really do is like a coping mechanism is distraction. So what better distraction is there than watching Harry Potter or Iron Man?
Yeah. It's a very common thing I've found with, especially with younger people who have disabilities like physical disabilities, especially. They really kind of cling to the superhero thing because, like they always have something that happens to them that kind of wrecks their body, but makes them into a superhero. Yeah. And so I've kind of noticed a little trend with that it's like, it's almost a way like to escape and to be that, like, put your mind into that story. I did a lot with that too. I'm a big sci-fi fan, so I watch a lot of like Star Trek and like Stargate. I mean, I know I'm a nerd, but like, I love it. Sci-fi.
Nerd to nerd.
I know, right? I love sci-fi because it really takes you to a different place. It takes you to a different world, and you can kind of escape reality because it's so different from reality. So
I got really caught up in it. I've always been I would say passionate is a good word to describe me about things, because when I'm into it, I'm really, really into it.
Yeah.
So, we go the full length and we go to Comic-Con and we, I force my parents to put up with it because they're into it, but definitely not as much.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a fun thing to do as just a part of your life, you know, because Comic-Con is one of the places where you're gonna find some of the nicest people. You know, some of it's a little weird and out there, but
Yeah.
you're gonna find the people that are probably the most. You're gonna be in like the most accepting environment that you can be for disability, for sexuality, for race, for anything.
Yeah.
Because no one there cares. We're all just there because we like comics.
Yeah. And it's most of the people are very open-minded because, you know, we half live in a fantasy world, kind of, you know, like our other side of us anyway. Yeah. Did you hear Aaron Eisenberg died? I don't know if you know who
Yeah,
that is.
I saw.
Yeah. Such a bummer.
Yeah.
I was a big Nog fan, so I was like, oh, no way. Yeah, and he was a big Comic-Con attender. You know, he was, from what I've never actually gotten the opportunity to go, unfortunately, but I've always seen him at them on the you know, videos or whatnot. So, yeah, it's
If you ever get a chance,
unfortunate.
totally recommend it.
I want
They're
to.
usually in like big, wide convention centers, so it's really accessible.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I know my wife wants to go too, so I was kind of surprised when she said that once. I'm like, dude, let's go.
Oh yeah, my dad mentioned it once, and then I bought tickets and surprised him for his birthday.
That's so cool. Yeah, I saw pictures of you and him there, so that's so
Tom
rad.
Holland.
That's awesome. That's rad.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's I just found out from someone in one of the RSD groups on Facebook that there's a convention, CRPS convention going
Disneyland,
on.
yeah.
Well, there's one he told me about. It's in Denver, I guess.
Yeah.
October 26th, I think. So, but there's one in Disneyland too, huh?
Yeah, there's one in Disneyland the first weekend of November. I think it's more tailored toward teens and kids.
Yeah,
We were
that makes sense.
considering going, but we're actually looking at another treatment right now that might interfere with that time frame.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's right around the other one. I would love to go, but I don't have the time to come up that kind of money in between now and then. So, and actually, I think it's too late to book your hotel because it's out of Hilton. So the Hilton's giving like $139 rooms, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So I thought it'd be cool to go and like, you know, maybe do a live stream and make a whole little episode out of the whole trip. But, you know, maybe next year.
It's a lot to commit to and travel to.
It is
so difficult.
Yeah.
That's hard on me because my family loves to travel. So like when I had CRPS, but it wasn't debilitating, I never really let on how much pain I'm in with my parents because they have a lot going on with it anyway, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So like we would go on these really extravagant trips out west and go to all the national parks and do like 7 in 2 weeks kind of thing, just like big road trip. And it was so hard to
gosh.
just like
I
die.
Bet. Yeah.
But especially plane ride, it's like we would do like a 6-hour flight and then immediately start doing stuff. And then like recently even my dad was like, hey, you know, maybe after this treatment thing is like a reward for like we're doing it, we're trying it because it's gonna, you know, it's always really emotionally exhausting to do that kind of thing.
Right.
It's like, oh, maybe we could go for a weekend to the Atlanta Aquarium. I was just like, you want me to fly, then do something with a lot of people, and then fly?
Yeah. Right. Do you get social anxiety too? Because I get that pretty bad.
Oh yeah, for sure. Especially because the people I know from high school a lot of them are nice people, but a lot of them aren't. Obviously, it's high school. But,
yeah, exactly.
Even before I had all this, I had really, really, really bad anxiety as a kid. And like going through all of this, it's gotten better as I've gotten older, but still definitely there. And the social anxiety is made a lot worse by the wheelchair situation. Because for me, as much as I've accepted my situation and myself, I am genuinely terrified of seeing anyone I know see me in a wheelchair.
Oh.
Because it's like, I don't want to be put in the position where I have to be seen differently, where I have to be remembered differently if I never go back or never see that person again. I don't want to be remembered as, oh, pity this poor girl who went through this terrible thing. And I don't want to have to answer questions. Not like I wouldn't be able to say no in that situation, but it's like, I don't want to have to be like, yeah, I have this thing and then this happened. And it's like,
totally.
And then I don't want them to go back to my old school and tell a bunch of people that I had this.
Oh, did you hear about Stephanie? Yeah.
It's like I have like one from my high school that I talk to like once a month, and then the rest of my friends are like didn't even go to my high school to begin with. But
Yeah. Wow. So yeah, that's something I've talked about before with another person I had on, and my doctor. It was actually something my doctor mentioned to me, that people with CRPS, like, it doesn't own us, and that's not who we are. And people might see you in a wheelchair, and you tell them about it, and that's all they see, that's all they think, and it's like, oh, it's Stephanie with CRPS. And so I see that, and that is hard too, and definitely something that makes us like not want to socialize, because we don't want people to be looking at us only as that, because there's a lot more to us than just what they're seeing. And so it's an unfair assessment.
Yeah, I mean, and that's with anyone really, because CRPS is something that is so hard to explain what it is. So sometimes I just like make up little things. It's just like, oh, I fell, my leg's paralyzed. Fun, bye, gotta go. Because it's like essentially like paralyzed in pain, whatever. But it's like, it's such a complicated thing to say that you have, and then of course no one knows what that is.
Right.
And then they're like, oh, what's that? And you're like, well, there isn't an easy explanation that's not going to take 20 minutes. And it's hard to say no in those situations, especially if you're a very socially anxious person. To try to get out of the situation is very difficult.
Right. I just chop it up and say, I have permanent nerve damage from a motorcycle accident, and it's permanent. It doesn't go away.
Because everyone's always like, oh, are you going to get better? And you're like, oh, thanks for reminding me I'm not.
Yeah. And we have to remind people that constantly, that should know better. And I know I've said it many times before. It's like,
oh yeah,
it's hard, and it gets really tiring having to constantly repeat it. Like, no, I'm not getting better. No. Constant.
As treatments that I've tried and places that I've gone, it's like, you think they would get the hint, because it's like, I would understand if it's like my extended family, maybe we only see them once or twice a year and they don't really get it because we don't see them often, that's fine. But if it's like my grandmother who comes over every other week and she's still just like, how are you feeling today? Are you feeling okay today? Do you want to go out? Do you want to just go out at the store and go shopping today? It's like,
no.
I can't do things spontaneously. I have to plan.
Yeah.
We have to be sure she's able to get my wheelchair in and out of a car. We have to do all these things. I can't just like pick up one day and be like, oh, I'm going to go out right now.
Yeah. Or they think like, well, it'll make you feel good. You need to get out. You should move around.
No, it really won't.
Yeah, it's so frustrating, but I guess it's something we kind of just get numb to after a while, because it doesn't bother me as much as it used to. But it's kind of sad we have to get numb to that, because people should just kind of hear us out and understand. And like, I think a lot don't believe that we won't get better. It's hard for them to believe we're not going to get better. And they probably think too positive about it, not understanding the true facts and reality of CRPS.
That was the problem my dad had for a long, long time. Even while I was at Kennedy Krieger for months, every day, all day. Because I really have an issue with letting people know how much pain I'm in, he didn't really understand how bad it was. And so he would, try to do things that I couldn't do, and he didn't understand why I couldn't do it, kind of thing. And it took me a really long time to be able to open up to him and be like, no, I can't do it. That's a really hard thing to say, is I can't do it. But it's hard when you do have to explain it all the time. It's just like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
Even, my best friend who knows the ins and outs of my situation like the back of her hand, every once in a while, she won't think about what she's saying, and she'll just be like, well, can't you just use your crutches to run in real quick? It's like,
yeah, my wife does it too.
Run in to Target with crutches and can't do that.
Yeah, my wife does it too. I mean, because they're not feeling the pain constantly, it's kind of hard for them to always remember it's there, and they don't have any way to gauge it. They can't tell unless we're like laying in bed crying in pain. But yeah, and I'm sure for your dad too, it was probably really just hard for him to accept that his little girl is in this kind of pain, and it's like permanent. Like, I can only imagine. So that's rough.
Yeah, it was a hard thing to get through, but I mean, if anyone else is having the same issue, I completely recommend, if you have a therapist get a therapist, and then they can also do sessions with your parents, and you can just talk to your parents with a moderator. That helped us a lot.
Yeah,
So,
that's a good idea. Yeah. That's something I wanted to ask you too, is any advice you might have for people who are younger with CRPS or just chronic pain, any type of disability like this,
if you
just
have
waste.
access to it, get a therapist. No matter
Yeah.
how much you think it's not really affecting you mentally, it is, because you're in pain a lot and it sucks. Get a
Yeah.
therapist. If you can get one, get one.
Yeah.
Sometimes there are really good therapists that specialize in people with chronic pain or even kids with chronic pain. It's really hard to come by those people, and a lot of times you have to go through a hospital, but it's worth it if you have to do that. It really, really is.
Yeah.
Um,
Ask your doctor maybe if
Ask
he
your
knows
doctor,
one.
exactly. They'll probably know people, especially if they work with a lot of kids or even adults with chronic pain. For a long time, I could only go to doctors that saw adults, and I was a weird case, and it was really hard to find doctors that would see me. But
Yeah.
it's worth it to just push, 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 because you never know what you have, and maybe moving around as much as you're doing is going to make it worse, and maybe not moving around as much is going to make it worse. You need a doctor. As many people, there are going to be a lot of people that misdiagnose you with chronic pain in general, not just CRPS. There's going to be a lot of misdiagnoses. You're going to be told you have fibromyalgia. You're going to be told you have a functional nerve disorder. You're going to be told you need to see a psychiatrist. It's all in your head.
Yep.
Those are the three things I hear every single person I ask say that they were told by a doctor. You have to keep pushing. If you don't feel satisfied with the answer and you go home and do thorough research on it and you don't feel comfortable with it, see another doctor. It is never a bad thing to get a 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 20th opinion. I have gone personally to over a dozen neurologists before we even heard of CRPS. So it's worth it to just push, 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 push. Even if it sucks and you're missing school. If you're like me, nothing was above school. Not your health, not your mental health, not your family, not your friends. Nothing was above school. And that was pressure put on by myself, no one else. But you have to let something take priority.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's something that a lot of kids struggle with, because you want to stay in sports and you want to stay at school, and with clubs, you have to let your health be the priority.
Yeah.
Or else it's just going to get worse.
Don't over push yourself. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And like you were saying too about mental health going right along with RSD and all that, it's very true, because I remember when I was first diagnosed and I was looking at my after summary report or whatever, and I was reading the diagnosis and depression was on there, and I almost got mad. I'm like, I'm not depressed, dude. I'm totally fine.
Yeah.
I didn't know how long term this was at that point. I didn't realize it was permanent. I thought I'll get better at some point maybe. And I just slowly realized how depressed I truly was becoming. But I don't know if I was depressed yet when they diagnosed me, but they probably just knew he's gonna be.
Oh, yeah.
So it goes hand in hand, and you have to treat that depression and anxiety and all that.
Yeah, that was something that was hard for me to accept, kind of. Mental illness runs in my family, and my sister dealt with it pretty heavily when she was in high school too. But I didn't want to accept that CRPS was the reason for it, I guess. Because I had already experienced a lot of issues with mental health. Like I said, I was really, really anxious as a child, and I was really depressed when I was in middle school, even before the CRPS really was bad.
Oh, really?
Yeah, people aren't nice in middle school.
Yeah, it's a rough world.
Yeah, so it's just I had a lot of experiences with it, but for some reason I was just again, I think it was the not disabled enough kind of thing. I was putting myself down a lot because of it. I was just because I was really upset. I was I can't go to school because of the stupid thing, because of my stupid body doing all these stupid things, and it's all me because it's my body. But it's not a choice, so you can't be mad at yourself about it.
Right. You gotta just accept it somehow, and yeah, you can't blame yourself, and that's a hard thing, because we do beat ourselves up a lot. I feel. I still do, because there's things I want to do, or me and my wife want to go do something, but we can't because of it, and it's oh great, it's all because of me. It's all my fault. And you got to get past that and realize it's not your fault, and don't let others get you down either because of it.
You have
You
to
know.
find good people to have in your life that understand that. I'm fortunate enough that, you know, when you stop high school, the people that weren't going to be your friends after stop being your friends after you stop seeing them every day. So
Right.
I got the kind of temporary friends out of my life quickly enough.
Yeah.
But then you really realize who are genuine people and will understand and take the time to realize, oh, it's not you canceling plans. It's something completely out of your control. That's okay. No worries.
Yeah.
But it's because, and then you have to find someone that understands how hard it is to cancel plans. Someone that can appreciate just how much you're willing to put yourself through to go out with them.
Right.
Because, you know, if I commit to going to like a big mall with my friend for the day, that's a lot for me. And that's me committing to being in pain the next few days, flaring from that. And so you have to find someone who's really going to appreciate that you're willing to do that to be with them.
That's a good point. That's a really good point because we are giving a lot of ourselves to that, you know, event or what we're doing. So yeah, it's not easy, you know, trying to make those plans and following through with them, or like you said, the next few days you might be in bed because of it, and you know, we're paying a lot for it. So it's good to have a good support system, good friends who understand, family who understand.
Yeah. It's hard to try to plan ahead with things, and I feel like that's something people don't really understand either. Is it's like my friend and I trying to plan our senior trip. You know, we've been friends since we were like 5 years old, and we've always had, you know, we want to do this, that, and the other, and we're like, okay, we need to scale back. We're not gonna go fly out to the Grand Canyon like we were going to, kind of thing. It's like, oh, maybe we'll do a little road trip to the Smoky Mountains instead, which is still great and super fun, but it's no matter how great and fun it is, it still had to be changed because
Scale
of
back.
something that is on me. You know,
Yeah.
as much as it's not my choice and it's whatever, it is my body and it is my situation prohibiting it, and that's kind of what's really hard to deal with.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we have to scale back everything we normally would do and make it, you know, something tolerable. So
Yeah, and it's hard to find what is tolerable. It's hard to find your limitations with something as severe as CRPS because it is just so scary to test your limits. So, like, you know, when I'm at Comic-Con and we're there for like 2 hours already because it's a lot of people and I start feeling overwhelmed, I'm like, do I want to try to push it? Is it worth it to push it? Should we leave now? Should we take a break? Should we call it off for the day? It's so hard to find where you need to stop. And I feel like a lot of people do less than they actually can just because of how scary it is to think about the flare after if you have overdone your limits.
Right. And that could also make you worse if you try to hold back too much. Because I feel it's hard for me because the more I do, the better I feel. Like the more, not better I feel. Okay, let me rephrase it. The less I do, the more pain I'm gonna be in. So the more active I could be at a stable limit that's not hurting me, the better off I am. It's when I'm completely stagnant that I get a lot worse and feel a lot more pain. So as long as I'm pushing myself to that proper limit and not over that limit, I feel I'm better off that way. You know, like I got to keep moving somewhat. But so when you hold back completely, I feel that's when people tend to really get bad off, and it could. I've seen some people, and I can't tell them to move around and do it because I don't really know if they can or not. I can't judge their pain.
Right.
But I look at what they're going through and think, you know, to myself, like, I wish you would just maybe try. But I don't want to be that person, though, to them. I don't want to be. And it's not that I'm like being negative. I'm just, I wish the best for them. I wish they could try a little more. But it's hard to say that because I don't know their pain. So, I mean, I know it, but I don't know their level of it because there's a lot of people I've been meeting since I've started this channel that are way, way worse than me. And it makes me thankful that I'm not worse off, you know?
Yeah.
So no matter how bad it is, it could always be worse.
Yeah.
So is there any last little things you want to say before we go? Any other stories you might have for us or advice?
I guess advice. if you're going through this, no matter what age you are, it is really okay to be upset about it because you are in a really bad situation. As much as it's not good to pity yourself or wallow on it too much, it's okay to just every once in a while have a little cry about my life sucks and I hate being in pain.
Totally.
Bottling it up is not going to help, and it's perfectly healthy and normal to think that your life sucks, because to some degree, yeah, it does. You're at a disadvantage and you're in a lot of pain.
Yeah.
But it's really a good thing to take that emotion and look and see what else you can do with it. And for me, I channel that emotion into school and pushing myself in it and doing as many classes as I can physically do without stressing myself out to the point of pain, obviously. But
Yeah.
it's really important to find your balance and use those negative emotions to find something good. If you can find a new hobby or movie that you really enjoy, then you can maybe meet new people and get out more if you can. And it's just really, really important to not let that negativity and unfortunately the reality of it affect you too much, because as much as you need to be realistic about the situation, you can't dwell on the fact that this is your life. You just have to live it. A quote from Tom Hiddleston that I really love is, "We all have two lives. The second one begins when you realize you only have the one." And
I
so
like
that's
that.
the thing I really live by, because I thought I was going to get better for a long time. And a lot of people with CRPS do get better, and that's why I keep trying other treatments and things like that. But you have to plan your life as if this is going to be it, because then if you don't have to change it, then you're not, how would I phrase it? If you set your expectations too high, then you're going to be a lot more disappointed if it doesn't happen. So if you go into it a little bit more neutral, then you're either neutral to the situation or you're pleasantly surprised by the outcome. And you're not going to feel that devastation. As much as it's hard to think about trying to have to keep yourself more neutral on the level of excitement and things like that, it's a lot better to go into Comic-Con and be like, okay, this is going to be painful. It's going to be worth it, but it's going to be painful.
Yeah.
And then, if you're not flaring as bad as you thought you would, great, you can do more, and it's a great thing, and it's super exciting. But if you can't do more, then it's less of a big deal, because you're like, okay, I went into this thinking that, and we already did everything I wanted to do. Everything else was just going to be a bonus. So it's okay. We did what we went there to do.
Yeah. Yeah, because it can be devastating otherwise if you think it's all going to be perfect, and but yeah, just acceptance, I think, is key. And I love that quote you said, by the way. That was an amazing quote, because it's true. It took me a long time to accept this, and I've had people ask me, saying, well, like, what did you do to accept your new life? And honestly, I don't have an answer for that. I didn't really do anything. It was just like, it just happened, honestly. And this whole YouTube thing is probably the birth of it, to be honest. Because right before that, August 7th was my 7-year anniversary. And when it came up to that 7-year anniversary, I started really getting down. I was like, dude, that's almost 10 years. Like, that's a huge part of my life. It just really got me down. And then I don't know, one day I was like, I'm just going to start a YouTube channel. Why not? And it really helped me get past it, but talking to other people. And then someone pointed out to me, she's like, how did you accept this, your life like this? And I didn't realize it until she said that. I'm like, wow, I guess I really have. So that's really cool. So yeah, it's key. You have to find a way to accept it any way you can. If it takes time, which it will, you just got to find that way, whatever it may be, Comic-Con, getting into, just a new hobby, or meeting new people like you did, meeting people online. I think that's a great way. I've been meeting tons of people online since I've started this channel. So
yeah. And it's okay to have a lapse in that acceptance too. It's okay to not all the time be like, yep, this is my life. This is how I live it. It's okay to, like, for me, my 7th anniversary was in the spring. And that was hard for me to deal with. But what was harder for me to deal with was my friend just went to homecoming, her senior homecoming, and I didn't go to mine.
Yeah.
So it's okay to have those moments where you're like, this sucks, and I really wish this wasn't my life.
Yeah.
But like I said, you have to use the thought of I don't want this to be my life to do what you can to make it not your life.
Right. Exactly. And yeah, I mean, there's going to be those times, like you said, with the homecoming. It's like, yeah, there's going to be the times you can't do the things, and you're going to have to accept that too. But it's okay to kind of, purge those emotions of sadness and grief. And yeah, it's okay to grieve every once in a while. And like you said before, let it out. Don't hold it in, because bottling up is probably the worst thing you could do. So
a good thing my therapist told me, a good way to think about it is when you're being sad about what you could have been doing, you're mourning the life that you could have had and the person you could have been. And it is okay, because it is losing a loved one. You're losing something that you enjoyed, and you're losing who you thought you were going to be as a person. And that's a big deal. It is okay to grieve it like you just lost your parents, because you lost a part of yourself.
100%. That's one of the only person I've ever known personally that has RSD. She's had it. She knew my wife since like high school or something. And so she's had it since she was like 20, 21. And when I got it, she was there for me, and it really helped me through it. But that was the one thing she said: you have to grieve your old life. You have to grieve that life, because you're never going to move forward until you do.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
There will be a day where you can look at pictures of yourself doing what you used to be able to do and not be upset about it. Like for me, it was a big problem looking at pictures of myself hiking and just living a normal life, and then having to go seeing pictures of myself in a wheelchair at concerts. That's a really hard thing to do, but it really is just like grieving someone that you love. There's going to be a point where you can look back on what you used to do and be happy that you could do it when you could.
Yeah. And, and I think even still, there's going to be those times, like you said, you might look back and still get bummed, because I just had one of those myself, actually. We went to the county fair last weekend, I think it was, and we were looking at the art exhibits, and there was a bunch of the food pastries and stuff all set out, and pies, and we were looking at those, and it bummed me out, because that's what I should be doing right now. I should be a chef. And I had to walk away. I'm like, okay, I can't do this. Like, I gotta go. This sucks.
And it's
This
hard
bummed
to
me out.
explain to other people why things bum you out too. Like my mom took forever to understand why it bummed me out to go into a shoe store, because I can't wear any other shoes besides like really comfortable tennis shoes.
Yeah.
It's depressing to think about something that is as simple as getting shoes to be that upsetting. But
that would be my wife's.
It's really a hard thing to explain.
Yeah. Yeah, the shoes thing, if my wife was in my situation, I know she'd be bumming on the shoes, because she's a big shoe person. So I can imagine. Yeah. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up here, but I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
And everybody, make sure you go check her page. I'll put a little link somewhere up here in the corner for people to check you out. I'll put it in the description too.
Especially because we're about to film a video for my channel too.
Yes, we're going to do a video too on her channel. So definitely come check it out.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
All right. Peace.
You'll have to